Okay, you might recognize this plastic base as the bottom of that Brother Charger 651. As you can see, it's got a big crack coming through the bottom here. I've washed this out very thoroughly, and to reinforce this corner and repair this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a piece of tape on the outside just to hold this kind of in place, and then I'm going to use super glue and bits of cardboard to lay across the crack as reinforcement to hold all that together, so that hopefully that will keep this base together for that machine. It's not going to be pretty on the underside of the machine, but it should reduce the visibility of the crack on the outside and make that more structurally sound. Alright, another issue for the case with the Brother, these plastic hinges. Brother used to be medium to low quality machines when they were first being imported, and this case, instead of having metal pins for the hinge on the back of the machine, just has these plastic pieces, and then there were plastic hinges that have long since snapped off. And I need to decide what to do about that, whether to try and fix or replace those. I would like to fix them so that the machine can tip back, but the plastic tab on the front of the case that holds the machine base down is also broken, so I would have to do something about that so that the machine would lift with the base when you lift it up. So I may do something completely different here than having these hinge pins. So let me give some thought to that and see how well fastened these plastic hinges are. I may put hold downs on here for the back, because it's got a spot for the machine to set in here. If I just put a hold down on the back to hold the back down, and then figure out a way to fasten the front of the machine down so that it picks up in this case. I think that's going to be the solution to that problem. Wow, the cricket's real loud this morning in the rain. Anyhow, you'll recognize this case is from the Brother Charger 651, and it used to have a sliding clip to close it, but one of those plastic clips was broken, and the other one, like, you'd have to get a custom replacement for it. So what I've done is mounted standard clips on the side, and to do that I put a tiny piece of plywood, very thin, I think this is 1/8 inch plywood, behind it, and I used some nuts and bolts to sandwich the plastic between the latch and that piece of plywood, so that this old plastic has plenty of support for these latches. The other thing is, I had to cut here and here out so that the two halves and the latches would match up properly, because otherwise the plastic would interfere with the ability of the two latches to connect. But now those two latches mean that this case can be used to carry the machine again. I know I had talked about fixing the hold downs and hinges for inside the case, but I have decided to just let the machine sit in the case, because the important thing about the case is that this base here covers the bottom of the machine to keep you from sticking stuff in the workings while the machine is running. And it doesn't need latches or hooks to do that. It just needs to be set in the case when you're using it. So I'm going to set the machine back in the case and finish it up. And I think that brother has been taken care of after we repaired that stuck length dial and fixed the wiring. Okay. The brother Charger 651. We got the length knob moving again, and I rewired the power block, and it's got the light and motor working, and I have the clutch out, so let's put the clutch in, and it's moving. And I'm feeling the hook here, and the hook has a rough spot on the underside where it got dull. So I'm gonna grab a file, and I hear beeping noise. There must be a garbage truck backing into the alley here, so I will stop filming until the garbage man leaves. Alright. So for the brother, two things. First, I've decided not to try and do anything about fastening the brother into the case. I'm going to focus on replacing the latches so that the lid can be latched onto the case and the case can be used to carry the machine, which is its main benefit. The other thing is, the belt on this machine was rotted out, and I replaced it with a standard MB style sewing machine belt, but this pulley uses a slightly wider belt than the MB style. And for the toothed belt here, it was setting all the way down into the motor pulley and not contacting the sides or getting a grip on the teeth to drive the machine. So what I did was take a piece of electrical tape, cut it to the width of the pulley, and then wound it around the pulley in the direction of travel so that when the motor turns, it's winding that the tape is being pushed on and wound in, and that is just enough to give a little grip for the belt here. The problem of this belt being a little narrow is only a problem for the drive pulley on older machines because it's so small. The clutch wheel or hand wheel is such a big pulley that there's plenty of surface area for the belt to grip. This is a solution you can use for any of the machines you get where the drive pulley is a little wide and the belts, the tooth belts, modern tooth belts, sink all the way in and don't have enough surface area on the teeth touching the drive pulley. And it's an easy fix and should last basically forever because it turns, electrical tape doesn't last a long time in a lot of situations because the adhesive on it can go bad, but we're not relying on the adhesive really to do anything here. We're just relying on the rubber of the tape to occupy a bit of space on the pulley. So even when the rubber goes bad and the adhesive starts to fail, that isn't anything we're relying on for this job. Alright, the Brother 651 Charger is working well now. It's got some fancy thread in it and is stitching nicely. The feed dog control is functioning. So it lowers the feed dogs properly. Our zigzag is moving like it always was, and our selector length knob is turning properly. The bobbin winder, when I did the video, I had some trouble with it. I realized that I have got the latest batch of tires I have, which, if I can grab one and hold it up. When you get these tires, you got to check for all this extra flashing around the edge, because that thin spot of flashing, when it hits the drive area, it is enough to keep the tire from touching enough, well. And all you have to do is take a Stanley knife or a razor blade or even a pair of scissors or your trimmers like this and just knock that off so that it's and like this one, the molding tab is still on there. You just have to shave around the edge until it's smooth or flat, and that way the tire can properly contact to drive. So that's the issue I had. I was like, I knew I put a new tire in this machine, and I had, but I had not carefully trimmed the flashing off the edge. So, one more thing to watch out for. But otherwise, this 651 Brother Charger is in good shape, and like I said when I was tearing this apart, this machine was a middle to low quality machine when it was new. Because the material they made this dial out of was cheaper than proper metal, and it swelled up and got stuck. And whenever you get to looking at these older machines, you know, people love to say old stuff was built better, and it's true, but the reason they built it better isn't because they weren't trying to make cheap stuff. The reason is they just didn't have plastic that was good enough to put in certain places. And as soon as these companies that were making cheap stuff were able to get better plastic, they started substituting that more for the other cheap stuff, like this cheap pot metal that they'd been using before they had good plastics. So